The average American will spend roughly 2/3 of their lifetime here on this earth in one single place, their home. Looking at government reports, it's reasonable to estimate that the average person will spend some 50 years, a half century, in their personal residence. That's more than 400,000 hours going around the sun. But it's not just the quantity of time that matters. It's the quality of the moments that we often as human beings spend in our home. From walking across that threshold with your bride for the very first time, to bringing home your child from the hospital, or watching your baby take their very first steps just feet from where they lay their head down at night. The truth is, homes are more than just a place. For many of us, it's where we will spend our most precious resource here on this earth, our time. In this episode, we discuss the concerning reality that many Americans now fear they will never be able to experience those memories in a place of their own. My name is Robert Aery. This is the Veto Podcast, and this is my one take. I named this channel the Veto because I think the people have the ultimate veto power.
That's great.
It's our freedom. We have the responsibility
Yeah,
to watch over society, to veto the bad ideas in the ballot box.
that's good.
Over the last few election cycles, one word has dominated the kitchen table discussions of American families. That's affordability. Cost is king in American politics today, and for good reason. Americans have seen dramatic rises in costs in a number of areas, especially homeownership. Now, at the beginning, I want to make sure that I give a caution about that term affordability. That is the term that you'll see across the board in headlines and even discussed by politicians. But I think it's important to note, affordability is a very subjective term, meaning what is affordable for me may not be affordable for you, or what's affordable for the average family in Oklahoma is certainly far less than would be affordable for a billionaire. That's important because language matters. What is far less subjective is the idea of costs. And Americans have seen their costs rise on a whole host of issues at the family table for a number of years. A 2024 poll found that among American renters who could not afford to buy a home, 54% believed that it was unlikely that they would ever be able to purchase their own home. Researchers at Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies reported that the median sale price for a single-family home in the U.S. in 2022 was almost 6 times higher than the median household income. That is the highest that they've ever recorded, which dates back more than 50 years. In addition to that, mortgage rates rose dramatically for American families between 2020 and 2024, when the 30-year fixed mortgage rate rose from 3.7% to almost 7%. So it's not surprising that the cost of living concerns are on the minds of Americans. And specifically, housing is at the top of that list. One polling firm found that 63% of respondents said that housing costs are a source of moderate to extreme financial pressure in their lives. And it means more than just housing costs. Think of our low birth rates in the United States, where we've hit record low birth rates over the last few years. Young Americans now indicate in studies that they're putting off major life milestones, such as marriage or having children, simply due to high costs. Now, how do we get here? Well, we got here for a lot of reasons. First and foremost of which, we have a government that spends recklessly in Washington, D.C., and they've inflated your dollar and decreased your spending power over the course of generations. There's also market conditions, things like construction costs and labor costs that simply are driving up the costs to build homes. But what role does your state and local government play in contributing to those costs that either you as a home purchaser will pay at closing, or you as someone who wants to build your first home will see as you're going through that process. A unique study from the Hearn Policy Institute aims to get at that very question. I encourage you to look at the full report at hearnpolicy.org. But I want to go through just a few things to summarize 4 key areas where your government can contribute, depending on your jurisdiction, to the burdens that you might see as a homeowner or experience through costs of the homeownership. The first one is those long home ownership burdens that you'll experience over the lifetime of your home. Things like property taxes and utility bills. Now, utility bills aren't necessarily coming directly from the government. Sometimes they are. Some local utilities are owned by municipalities, for example. But at the very least, most are regulated monopolies, meaning they have to go and get permission from the government to set their prices or at least check a box. There's at the very least large government input on those decisions. So those are important. But look at property taxes. Let's take the median sale price of a home in the United States. Today, that's about $400,000, meaning for the average home that's sold in the United States, it's around $400,000 according to the U.S. Census. An analysis by the National Association of Home Builders found that the average amount of real estate taxes paid in 2024 was almost $4,300 across 87 million owner-occupied single-family homes. When you do the math, what that means is over the course of a 30-year mortgage, the cost of total property taxes paid by an average American for an average American home could amount to some 30% or more of their original purchase price. That's an incredible investment, and it's an incredibly large amount that homeowners will pay over the course of home ownership. Now, property taxes are important to a lot of things. Schools, for example. Many school districts across the country are relying on property taxes. Different states have different and varying tax structures. But it's important to keep in mind that Americans don't just own a home because it's a place. For most Americans out there, their home is their single largest asset. It is their wealth. It's their largest store of wealth. So when you think about the taxes that are put on that, it's important for policymakers to consider that for the average American family, it really matters what level is the property tax level appropriate within their state and communities. The second area, beyond long-term ownership burdens that you'll experience, like utility bills and property taxes over the course of home ownership, there's transaction costs, meaning costs that government imposes when you go and you want to buy or sell a home. Things like transfer taxes. Within closing costs, there's certain fees that different states and municipalities and localities put on homeowners. U.S. News World Report made an analysis of the Federal Reserve Survey, and they found that the median savings account balance for American families in 2022 was $8,000. For those under 35, it was just $5,400. For some out there, they may think that that number is actually pretty high. Well, you have to consider that the larger, higher income level earners skew that number up. And here's how you know that. A 2025 study found that nearly 60% of Americans didn't have enough savings to cover an unexpected $1,000 emergency expense. That's almost 2/3 of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency in their savings. What that tells you is that while small and while many policymakers might say they're insignificant, for a family going to purchase a home, a few bucks really matters. It especially matters when you consider our housing market today. The National Association of Home Builders assessed that nearly 75% of American households couldn't afford a median-priced new home. An industry analysis of real estate by Bankrate found that median income earners in America were priced out of 75% of American homes in the market. Again, a few dollars of government burden at any level of the transaction matters a lot for the American home buyer. The other areas that you should consider are burdens on constructions, permitting process. Any delays adds to the price that both builders have to deal with that's then eventually passed on to the consumers. In addition, and finally, there's burdens on use. Prior to ever breaking ground on a property, government often restricts the use of property, meaning it can only be used for this purpose or that purpose. While often that's very important and useful in society, in some jurisdictions, it can become a burden that adds cost because it restricts the amount of available land that can be used for things like affordable housing. And again, affordable is relative, meaning single-family homes or homes that individuals could use as an average American to go buy and get into homeownership. Not in every jurisdiction, but in some jurisdictions that can be problematic. Again, you can go read the research for yourself at hermpolicy.org. You can read the full study. But these issues really matter. Our expectations as human beings are often determined by our experiences, meaning our perceived reality is often built on personal relevance. True leadership requires both a relentless pursuit of growth, but also a firm grasp on reality. You can't have the former without the latter. You could solve 1,000 problems a day as a leader, but if they don't matter to real people, if they're not consequential to the people that you serve, your actions are meaningless. That's especially true in public policy. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things that could be addressed that maybe the media are talking about that actually don't really matter to the average American. The issues of ensuring that government doesn't cause enough burdens that the average American can't afford to live the American dream and to have a place of their own and have those memories, to make those memories with the people that they love. That is an issue worth discussing. My name is Robert Aery. This is the Veto Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode of The Veto. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be on our email list, please go to yourveto.com. Don't forget that we the people hold the ultimate veto power. It's your freedom, it's your decision. We'll see you next time.